Asad, thanks for joining. I'm Pinkasha from Pascare. We do these wellness sessions twice a month on different topics, everything related to keeping our work and life balanced. As you also know, it's a Monday, we are all in office. Most of us are at work. Some people are also working remotely, but it's a work timing. So we try and keep that 1 hour where we all can have some time off for ourselves, and we try to create this safe space where we can talk about everything with an expert. So today we wanted to speak about performance and longevity. And we have with us Asad. He's the founder and CEO of Odds Fitness, which is a very good quantified health and performance brand. He has 20 plus years in coaching professionals, CEOs, a lot of elite athletes as well. He's the creator of the Odds ecosystem, recovery, reset, rehab, and academy. Welcome, Asad. Thank you again for joining in. I would like you to take us through the session today. Uh, as you can all see his screen. So, Asad, over to you. We would love to know more about you, where you're joining from. And if you'd like to know more about the audience, feel free. Our audience is super interactive. Everybody can use the chat button. I also have given them the option to unmute themselves and ask you a question.
Right.
So over to you, Asad.
Cool. Thank you for such a kind introduction. Just so that I have a little feel of how many people do we have on this session today?
We have around 25 people. A few of them are joining right now. I have 27. We
Cool.
have people as and when we keep talking. It's
Awesome.
4 right now. I think by 4:15 we'll have the maximum number of people joining us.
Amazing. Cool. So just to put things into perspective, I'll briefly tell you what exactly because this word health is so loosely used, and it's so misunderstood. Somebody says this, somebody says that, and there's so much clutter out there. So what essentially do we mean by health, right? And the foundation of everybody's understanding about health, is it like just to live long, or is it actually to live the right way, or what exactly is it? So the new terms, such as biohacking and longevity, they were sort of coined to put things into perspective. Now, when you talk about biohacking, what exactly does it mean? Biohacking essentially means, how is it that you can use certain variables? Maybe it is your lifestyle, maybe it is nutrition, and we'll get into that later. But what are the kind of responses with certain supplementations, or maybe some kind of stimulus or demands that you put on your body? What is the kind of response that you're able to generate out of your body? So let's say you put input A and B, what do you expect your body to physiologically or psychologically do? So that would be biohacking. And most of you are working professionals, right? You're ambitious, and you also want to be able to do the things that you're doing for very, very long. And when you're young, you sort of have this idea that I want to do this by these many years, and I want to do this by these many years. But every decade, your sort of dreams and goals sort of change. Longevity essentially takes all of it and tells you that you do what you want to do, but you should be able-bodied to do it, right? And we'll get into health span and lifespan later in this session. So the cornerstone of this entire let's say, or the crux of this entire webinar would be to make sure that each and every single one of you has some key takeaways and something that nobody can refute. It's not like you'll go to a doctor and the doctor will say, no, this is absolute rubbish, there is another way to do it. Or if you'll go to an Ayurvedic person, then he'll say, no, it's the wrong way to do it. Or if you go to a psychologist, they'll say it's the wrong way to do it. Everybody in totality will agree that this is the right way to lead your best life possible, and in order to make the maximum out of your life, right? And to live long enough. Now, a little bit about me. Why do I usually don't like this slide? Because my mentors and the people who have always guided me, they've always asked me to refrain from explaining who you are and talk about your laurels, yourself, etc., because it might come across as a little cocky. But the reason why I let this slide be is till the time I don't become them, it is important for people to know that why is it that I'm somebody who can maybe make a statement on it, and maybe you can take me a little seriously, so you understand why is it this person is making this statement, where is he coming from, what is he saying. There are many people in this country who don't have any formal education, they don't have relevant context, and they make a few Instagram reels and then they become popular, etc., all of that. And there's so much misinformation out there that I feel that it is important that one must know what the sources of that information is from. So in short, I'll tell you who I am and what I do. I'm someone who, as a very young kid, always believed in the balance of everything. And whether it's sport or whether it's academia, you'd usually see people who are always leaning towards one thing or the other. I went to school in Delhi. I don't know where most of this audience is from, but if you know Delhi, I'm from St. Columba's School, which is the same school as where Shah Rukh Khan went to, or Rajiv Gandhi went to, and all these people went. And I was also a state level, national level swimmer. I was also somebody who was the school team's football captain. From there, I went to DPS Arkepuram later during my 11th and 12th. There, I continued sports as well. And I would always believe that I need to pay attention to all the aspects of my life equally, and sort of balance it. So I would never feel left out that, okay, I didn't play a sport, or maybe I'm not an athletic kid, or maybe I didn't, study well and I'm just good at one thing and that's about it. And maybe I didn't go out and meet people or maybe party that much. I would always have a good balance and I would try and do it to the best of my capabilities. And thereby there was this foundation or the method of training an individual, which would be coaching, right? So I would start by, let's say, saying, if somebody says, I want to drink alcohol, I want to go for a party, as opposed to regular coaches, I would say, do all of that, but then there is a way to do it, right? You don't overindulge, you don't go overboard. And that's why most people bought into my programs and my ideologies and my thought processes. Just to give you a little background, I've trained some very, very well-known individuals, some of them being the owners and promoters of Mankind Pharma, whether it's Mahindra, whether it's Tarun Tehliani, Kumar Birla, many people who are well-known in this space. So it's not like, you're listening to someone who doesn't understand what a working professional goes through, the challenges that they go through. Some of you have come from other cities to metropolitans to work. Some of you have these goals and ambitions, and you say, okay, when I achieve it, and then maybe I can focus on my health. But the truth is that to reach your destination, everything goes hand in hand and together, right? There is no end to this journey. There is nothing that one is going to achieve at the bottom of it. So in all the crux that life has to offer, because I've trained some really old people. I have had the honor of meeting KP Singh. I've had the honor of spending some time with NK Modi from Modi Nagar, and these guys are like 80, 90 years old who've been through that journey, and they know that, okay, you know what, this is what's most important. They are very successful, and all my experience and knowledge comes from that. My formal education is in exercises and sports sciences. So essentially, what we study there is how does exercise impact the human body, biomechanically and physiology. What are the adaptations that your body is going to make if you exercise? Let's say if you're running, does your brain actually change? So we'll put a person into an MRI, and then in that MRI, we will see how does it affect gray matter or white matter, right? And that's the level of science I'm talking about. If you put someone through an exercise routine, whether it's strength training, and many people will be like, I just want to do strength training, cardio is not for me. Does it make any change, or does it have an impact on your heart health? So exercise physiology would be that, and I'm formally trained in it. I have my bachelor's in it, and very soon I'll have my PhD in it. So, and I'm 35 years of age, and my dissertation is going to be on health outcomes based on what kind of lifestyle variables a person puts in. So that's about me. Before I begin, does anyone have any specific questions about what they would what this is about? Do you have anything that you would want to contribute to? Any certain questions that you want me to answer up until now? If you would like to know more about me or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Let's,
hi.
yeah, okay. We
Yeah,
have a,
yeah. So I'm Srinivasan. So I just want to, ask regarding, there are, as you said, there's too much clutter about, the protein you have to take, daily protein intake, daily, macronutrients intake, daily, macros, micros, everything. Like, you have to take so much carbos. You have to, do strength training for 1 hour and run for 90 minutes to have a optimal health. It's like a very bland statement saying that you have to do this. But daily taking 100 grams of protein might not be the same for a person with a weight of 60 kgs, and I'm 104, right? So
Right.
104. So for me, my requirements will be different. So I just want you to, also go through, these very well known facts, like you have to eat so much of protein, or you have to focus on strength training, or don't you want to do about cardio, how much cardio, which person has to do so much cardio. And regarding the work times, I'm from finance background, right? So usually I work around 8 to 9 hours, okay? But sometimes I may need to work for 14 hours, 15 hours continuously for 3 4 days. If it's a year end closing, month end closing, I have to do that. And I also feel that for the next, after doing 2 3 days of, working for 14 15 hours, I have to, next 10 days or 15 days, it will be a lot hard for me to work even 8 hours or 9 hours. Okay,
Yeah.
what things I have to do? No, we can't avoid this. As working professionals, we can't avoid working for long hours. Okay, I want you to help us. You can do this to feel, to make sure that the damage being done, you can no lower the damage being done. No, the so much of eyes getting affected because we stare at the screen for 14 hours, 15 hours. Okay, so what things can we do? That might be, from the point of view of a person who's working, 9 hours, 6 days a week, and
Yeah.
even sometimes, 14 hours, 15 hours for 3 4 days. Maybe, for at a stage 15 days you don't take a break.
Yeah.
This
So,
happens. It
so
doesn't happen, it hasn't happened, every time, every month it doesn't happen, but definitely for some time it happens, right? So I just want you to have this in mind, and maybe you can go deep on that.
100%. And the reason why our organization, which is Odds Fitness, is only working with individuals of that order is because uh, the people that we sort of our clients and the people that we uh, train or coach, they're all people who like flexibility. They're people who are not dedicating their lives to exercise. They're not people who are dedicating their lives to running marathons. Those people have it sorted. They just need experts who can just make them a little bit better. The whole idea is to have a performance context, because even if you're from finance, you need to be at the best of your cognitive capabilities, right? And a simple example I would give you, and I'm sure you guys must have experienced it, is that when you're doing deep work, right, and you don't have any distractions, and you're in flow, you're not anxious, you're not over aroused, and you're not even bored. When you're doing deep work, you'll rarely realize how time flies. And the whole idea is that you want to make as many, how do you say, you want to create as many opportunities for you to get into deep work. So let's say, even if you're working 14 hours, what is your true output? Is your true output worth 4 hours, 5 hours? Is it only a matter of effort, or is it a matter of motivation, or is it a matter of skill, right? Or your mental faculties being there. So, what I'm going to talk about today is, of course, there's going to be a lot of sleep, there's going to be a lot of, workout snacking and all those things. Basically, all things that you'll realize that if I get up and do a simple burpee for 10 reps, if I have really long hours of work and every hour I do it, does it make my total output of work better? Because when I'm doing that exercise, I'm actually creating catecholamines. I'm creating neurotransmitters in my body which make me perform in, it's like nitro mode for your brain. So you'll realize that if you do a sudden exercise, you do like uh, you know 50 jumping jacks, and then you go back to your computer and you start working, you'll see that you're sharper and your response is sharper because you produce adrenaline. And adrenaline is the same equivalent as caffeine and nicotine, and it has the same effects. So I get exactly what you're talking about. I myself work close to about 14, 15 hours every day because Odds is a new company. It needs me to do that. And I totally understand where you're coming from, right? Cool. Anybody else, any questions? Otherwise, I'm proceeding further. Right. So now I want you guys to understand that every person on this planet is doing something about their health, right? And maybe this slide is not for everyone. Maybe some aspects aren't for everyone because you understand why health is important. As human beings, we will always try to preserve our existence, and survival is always going to kick in. All of us have all the problems in the world before we have a health problem. And once a person has a health problem, that person only has one problem, and that is health. Everybody knows this, but why do we constantly engage in, self-sabotaging activities, constantly being in toxic relationships, constantly being in toxic situations, maybe binge watching Netflix, knowing that next day you have to get up and sleep is important, but why do we keep doing it? The reason why we do it is because we don't have a larger context of life. We don't understand that, whatever years we are going to enjoy, is it something that we want to really live long for, or does the quality of what we are doing and our abilities, those are the things that we would want to put as a variable factor input in our lives. So I'm going to explain to you the difference between a lifespan and a health span. As you can see in the image there, a person who has great lifespan, but that person doesn't have, let's say, the freedom to walk. That person doesn't have the freedom to, work in flow, like I spoke about. That person has a backache. Now, Srinivasan said that, I work 14 hours. Do you think he'll be able to effectively work 14 hours if he's got a backache? Because even if he's putting 70% of his cognitive capabilities into the work that he's doing, and provided this is a high skill task that he's doing, 20% of his mind will always be in that aching back, and he's not going to be in flow. And that flow is really, really important for anybody who wants to be a high performance individual. You want that next appraisal, you want that promotion, whatever it is directly correlated with your performance, and performance is what matters. Imagine somebody who's turned out with diabetes. That person has to make at least 4 visits to the endocrinologist in a year. And that visit to the endocrinologist, if he's a half decent endocrinologist, is going to take at least 3 to 4 hours, including wait time, including travel time, etc. Do you think you want to spend 4 4s or 16 hours of your time in a year trying to figure out what the doctor is saying, what does it even mean for you, and then take those medicines every day? Once it's run out, you want to figure out how it's going to get better? No, you don't want to do that. And that's just the beginning of it. And that is going to take your cognitive capabilities from the work that you're doing and away from it into something that is not going to allow you to perform. Not only on a physiological level, this I'm only talking about psychologically. Physiological level पे तो मैं बाद में आऊंगा, right? Now you talk about, let's say you want to travel, you want to hang out with your kids, you want to go from one terminal to another. Do you think a person who is highly capable is going to be able to do that, or is it someone who is not very capable? And then arises a question that if you're doing the things that you're doing right now and damaging your health, what is it even for? So health span and lifespan are significantly different. Health span would essentially mean, are you in your capabilities to do the things required for you to do in order to enjoy your life? And living longer is only a numbers game. If you're on a wheelchair, you could be living longer, but the quality of your life is significantly poor. A 60-year-old person who's independent, who can pack his own suitcase, travel the world, experiences life in a very different way versus a 60-year-old person who's dependent on a wheelchair. That person needs somebody to pick him up, put them on a toilet seat, and then lift them up from the toilet seat every single time that person wants to use the toilet. Forget travel. In travel, you must have seen people go to the airports and They're sitting in a corner on a wheelchair, staring at a wall. And once you ask them, what are you doing here? They're waiting for the attendant to come back from the toilet. That's not quality life. So, what are the things that we can do to extend lifespan, and what are the things that we can do to extend health span? Right? So, if you look at health, I want you to just think of it in a way where you're actually just buying time in order to do the things that you really, really want you to do, whatever it is that you're working for, even if it is your professional journey, even if it is a meeting that you're going for, or even if it is work that you're just sitting and working on your laptop. It will be significantly different if you have good quality health span, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you three core variables that you can look at, and you can be like, okay, you know what? I'm in the green zone or I'm in the red zone. If you want, you can write them down, right? And there's a written here. You can take a screenshot as well, So that's going to be your blood pressure, right? That's going to be your HDL. It's going to be your waist circumference, your fasting glucose, and your triglycerides. If your HDL is towards the lower end, right, close to about 40, 50, etc. If your blood pressure is above 120, right, and edging towards 130, which is your systolic blood pressure, which is the upper variable, which is with the force that your heart, the force that your blood vessels feel when the heart is pumping blood, sending blood to your entire body. If your waist circumference is above 40, your fasting glucose is above 100, and your triglycerides are above 150, right? So you make a checklist and you see that, okay, you know what? I have this checklist of 5 variables. If anything more than 2 goes out of whack, I'm in a red zone. It means I'm going to be at an increased risk for cancers. I'm going to be at an increased risk for diabetes. I'm going to be at an increased risk for heart attacks. Whatever bad thing you can think of, you're going into that red zone. 2 is okay. If all 5 are in green, you're metabolically healthy, which means internally, you're absolutely fine. Your organs are going to work fine. All these things are going to work fine. और अगर आप देखोगे कि इनमें से 3-4 things are not in range, you'll see yourself dealing with fatty liver, you'll see yourself gaining weight. One thing will lead to another. Some problem or the other will start cropping up from there. Right? Any questions up till now? Cool. No questions. Right? So, you all know that you're living in India, right? And to be very honest, if you think about um, how the world data is and how India is, you're dealing with a significant variables of challenges. India just came out of the poverty stricken, the hunger stricken stuff that we dealt with post partition. And now it's going through a journey where it's trying to recalibrate. It's trying to understand. There's going to be working professionals. There's going to be people who are going to be making a lot of money. But then comes significant other problems, with the high amounts of consumption that is there. Because what goes up when you start making more money at a gross level? Consumption goes up. And then you have a consumption problem, because food gives you joy, it gives you happiness, so automatically consumption will go up. And then you have a problem of excesses, right? Because too much is also bad, too little is also bad. And you'll hear your grandmothers and everyone say that, beta kuch kha le, kuch pee le. That's old India that you're dealing with, who was dealing with malnourishment, poverty, not having adequate food. So that's the mindset. Now the mindset has flipped. It's now about overnourishment. And because of, not only because of that, because of work stress, because we're just emerging out of that. Everybody wants to change their lives. They want to be successful. They want to achieve something. We are not some Scandinavian or European country that we've been wealthy since centuries, and now you can afford to work 4 days in a week, 5 days in a week. We want to do more things. We want to be able to create, or get success at some level. What does that lead to? You will always look at the signal that is coming for success, and everything else will become noise. That makes Indians have the highest rates of early cardiometabolic diseases globally. And the air pollution doesn't help, right? and that adds to the biological aging, right? It's going to have that problem. In fact, in India, half the heart attacks happen to people under the age of 60, right? And you'll hear of a lot of people, he was so fit, he was running, he was doing this. Darshan Mehta, for that matter, he used to exercise, he had a heart attack. All of these can significantly be deterred. Significantly, I'm not going to give absolute numbers, but significantly the probability of these can be deterred by a huge amount, right? A huge amount means that you can reduce the risk of it by 50%. I'm going to share with you some data that through which you can actually, see if you're high VO2 max and you quantify it, and if you're high strength, you're 200, 400, 300% lower risk to die of any reason for that matter, no matter how unhealthy you are or whatever it is, right? And if you're living in Delhi, oh God help you, because pollution is so bad. If you're not wearing a mask, you're going to reduce your age by 5 years. If you don't have air purifiers at home, even if you just fix that much, you'll just extend your quality of life. You'll have fewer flus, you'll have fewer colds, you'll actually be able to work better, and that has a direct impact on your output. And not only that, you'll add, if you do the WHO guidelines or standards of PM 2.5 particles, you can extend your lifespan up to eight years, right? Now, coming to the clutter, right? There's so much clutter. Everybody's saying everything. Everybody's saying something or the other. Now, I learned this from Harvard, when I was doing lifestyle and wellness coaching there. And over there, they simplified it for you. Why do I like Harvard? They conduct very long studies, longitudinal studies, 80 years, 50 years. There was this one study, and I cited it on my social media platform, and I said that, the one of the significant aspects to having a very long life is not your nutrition, it's not your supplements. If you're lonely, it's as bad as smoking. You reduce your age by 14 years. And that's why there's a loneliness epidemic in the West, right? So let me sum it up for you. These are 6 things that you have to deal with. The 6 things that you have to deal with are sleep, nutrition, exercise or movement, however you want to call it, the quality of your social connections, avoiding risky substances, right? And stress resilience. So you have 6 things. Easy. You put this on a sheet of paper, and whenever you're confused, what is it that I'm not doing right? You'll be able to probably pinpoint that, okay, this is wrong and this is wrong, and I can fix this and I can fix this. Now, why is this important? The reason why I say that knowing this is important is because there are many people who are wearing these fitness tracking devices. They're overdoing it. They're looking at one aspect or another. They're going like, okay, you know what? My HRV is low. My this is low. My that is high. What are they doing? Do you think those devices are helping them? No. Those devices are actually causing anxiety, right? If you take it as feedback and you take it as a report or something that's not going to mess with your head, it's great. If it's creating stress in your head and you're not able to take it as feedback to improve or work upon, it's actually going to do you more harm than good. It's not going to help you, right? Because stress is a huge contributor to disease. When you have stress, it increases cortisol, and that's been well documented. Cortisol's function is to increase blood sugar. Once blood sugar is high, you will always have an insulin sensitivity problem and you'll end up with diabetes. No matter what you think your fitness tracker is doing for you, if it is maybe giving you stress or over amounts of exercise or not being able to be in a state of parasympathetic nervous system, right? It's going to lead to havoc. No matter if you're exercising, no matter if you're running 50 kilometers or whatever it is, right? So here's something where nobody tells you how to deal with, everybody says go exercise, do this, do that. Cool. You have a hustle and grind culture, but very important aspect of all of that health is that you should be able to manage stress, right? And the same goes for nutrition. Now, when you talk about nutrition, everybody's confused. How should nutrition be like and everything? We'll talk about it. I'll show you. It's a very simple format. You don't have to apply your mind that much. Srinivasan said, how many grams of protein? If you're calculating that, how the hell are you going to focus on the most important aspects of your life? It's like saying that, I want to fine tweak a car so that it can go 0 to 60 miles an hour in 0.1 uh, seconds faster. You're not a performance athlete. Essentially, you're in finance. You want to be really, really good because finance tells you that performance is important. But do you really want to be an F1 car, or being a sports car is also good enough for you? So you got to make a choice over there, right? And these are the most effective levers, right? So how I want you to look at it is like, you take one, identify one that you think that this is bad for me, right? You can write these 6 things down, and then you can say, okay, you know what, in the coming 1 month I'm going to work on improving this, right? And you should just be consistent at it. You don't need to uh, be like, okay, I'm going to join a gym and start exercising. Start with a habit that you think you can easily add to your routine. The best exercise routine is the one that gets done. It's not the one which has the highest amount of reps or has the highest amount of sets, and it's exactly what a document says. No, it's the one that gets done, right? And this is Harvard stuff, so I don't need to, talk about its credibility. It's pretty well validated. It's cross-linked and referenced through various different resources, right? Do you have any questions on this slide or any previous? Feel free to ask, because I've spoken a lot. If you want to have any, if you have any ideas, if you want to, ask some, specific questions regarding these things, feel free to ask. And if you want to know more, uh, let me know. I'll be happy to answer that. No?
Sleep pattern also, affects the body. And let's say one is sleeping 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock sometimes or 12:30 sometimes. Will that also,
It would be suboptimal. Now, if you like reading a book, if you like doing something, spending time with your family, I think it's fine, because the reading the book, what it does is it brings you in a state of calm. If you've ever read a book and if you're engrossed in it, you'll realize that it brings you in a state of calm. It makes you mindful, right? That's very important for deep sleep. So if that's the trade-off, it's fine. But if you're binge watching television and that's the reason why, then it's going to have a significantly higher impact. So you've got to see, what is it that you're actually missing out of these 6 things. In fact, I've had people who come to me like, my sleep is on point, my nutrition is on point, this is on point. I said, then, okay, what's wrong? I said, I don't know, like, I'm not able to, I'm like, dude, you don't go out, you sit home 7 days a week. Go out, because your psychological health, your mental makeup is going to change the way that you perceive life. And your psychology has a lot to do with your physiology. So we put him on a chair and we put a heart rate variability device on his ear and we looked at its pattern. He was always anxious, right? He was always anxious. And meeting people, when you meet people, it produces oxytocin. You build connections, you share, you feel lighthearted. And that sort of worked on him. He started going to these EO sessions, where he would interact with like-minded individuals. He would go out with them, he would speak to them. And over 3 to 4 months, he did see a change, a significant change. And being in that state actually induces your parasympathetic state, induces the healing and repair processes, right? Exactly what happens in sleep. So if you go into a state of meditation, if you go into a zone of um, uh, you know uh, into this space which is between sleep and between being awake, it actually has this significant repair mechanism that sort of takes place. It's non-sleep deep rest state, right? I hope that answers your question. Right. So why is movement important, right? So the reason why movement is important is because, and especially, people are confused. Should I do cardio? Should I be doing strength training? Both are equally important. But the fact of the matter is that your cardiorespiratory fitness, which is quantified by a VO2 max, you have this one metric called a VO2 max. It's the maximum volume of oxygen that your body can utilize in a minute per kilogram of weight of your body. And it's basically a measure of how efficiently your body is able to generate energy, and using all the substrates available, carbohydrates, fats, how does it produce energy using all of this, and how efficiently does it do it, right? And the reason why cardio is one of those great tools to improve it is because it goes from using your inefficient systems to highly efficient systems. So it's essentially training every single cell in your body, that how do you go through different methods of generating energy. So it would use glucose in the beginning, and then eventually it would go all the way up to fat. And in your body, you have these cells, every cell has a mitochondria, and your mitochondrial health and its ability to generate ATP, which is the the unit through which the human body generates energy. And when it's able to do that efficiently, right, when it's able to do that smoothly, it will do it for all processes in the body. It will do it for your pancreas, your brain. It'll do it for every single thing that you're doing. Even when you're thinking, it'll just be more efficient at generating that energy, because even your neurons, when they're thinking, even when they're sending a signal through your spine to your arm to your muscle or whatever it is utilizing energy. It is you doing it through generating and utilizing ATP, right? So cardio, essentially, which is endurance training, it can significantly improve the efficiency through which you generate this energy. Strength training is good, but for different reasons, and I'll get into that later. But for energy production, for metabolic health, for your internal organs to function really well, and for you to be really, really good at thinking or disposing glucose into your muscles, or utilizing glucose and having good body composition in terms of your fat percentage, etc. It just makes it polishes the whole thing. It makes it fast, it makes it smooth. Even if you're traveling from one place to another, if you carry something and go from one terminal to another, you'll do it much better. If you have to go hiking, you'll just do it much better. If you want to hold a child and walk from one place to another, you'll just do it more better. Everything is just better when you have high VO2 max, right? If I get too technical, because I have a tendency to do that and I'm forcing myself not to, just ask me the meaning of that thing, and I'll be more than happy to tell you and walk you through it, right? So anybody who wants to do a VO2 max test, it's pretty simple. You go online and you look for a Rockport test, right? And it's a test where you walk for a bit, which is about a mile, and then you check your heart rate, you put it in a Rockport calculator, and you'll get to know your VO2 max. What you want to do is you want to achieve excellent VO2 max. The way to do excellent VO2 max would be to train in a high heart rate zone, maybe once or twice in a week, right? And a high heart rate zone would be, let's say if your age is 30 and you subtract 30 from 220 and you're left with 190. So close to about 80% of that, you want to train in that zone. 80% of 190, you want to train in that zone for about 4 minutes for 4 intervals, maybe once or twice in a week. It'll significantly boost your VO2 max, right? And there's a study, I think it's in Lancet, right? It's a well-reputed journal. The study has done, it's a big study, and it's emerging, and every doctor is talking about it. If you are in the top 2.5% of individuals who have high VO2 max, and if you compare those individuals to the bottom 25%, and this is for all cause mortality matlab any reason of death. So that person who is in the top 2.5 is 300 times less likely to die of any reason in the coming year versus the bottom 25%, which means that you are 3 times less likely to die in comparison to a person who has low VO2 max. And this is a huge and a massive study. And it's a significant takeaway. Is it absolute? No. But is it a significant probability score? It absolutely is. Now, the other thing that people talk about are steps, right? Now, this VO2 max is separate in terms of your endurance training and your exercise. What you want to do is that you want to keep this training maybe to once a week, even if you do it like twice a month, it will still contribute 100%. You don't even have to do it that often. But your steps are something that you need to compound on. And they have separate reasons and logics, right? When it comes to outcomes. Like you measure VO2 max, does it have an outcome? Good. People say magnesium helps with sleep. Yes, theoretically, and to think of it, yes, it helps with neurotransmission, it helps with regulating your muscle relaxation and all of that. What is the outcome of it? Do we see it on sleep data? Do we see it on a on an EEG device? Maybe not. We don't have enough documented studies for that. But for VO2 max, we do. For steps, we do. And they contribute significantly to your health outcomes for different reasons. So you want to keep the steps on top of it. So if even if you're doing VO2 max, don't do the steps that day if you don't want to, but just do the steps anyway as a habit. Get up, walk, come back. Maybe if you're on the phone, go for a walk. 8,000 is a bare minimum. So even if Srinivasan is working 14 hours a day, that little walk can actually help him circulate blood towards his muscles, his brain. And the thing about blood is most of your blood is pooled in your veins, right? So if you're sitting, all of it is pooled in your legs, and your veins don't have the ability to contract and send the blood back to your heart. The only way to have circulation is when you move your leg muscles, and it's the muscles that send the deoxygenated blood back to your heart. The muscles have to contract, and only then the deoxygenated blood will go back to your heart, and then it will recirculate. So anybody who thinks that, how does walking improve my brain circulation? It's my legs that I'm doing. 100%, because your blood, which is pooled in your legs, is going to go up to the heart. It's going to get oxygenated, and fresh blood is going to get pooled. So your net total, circulatory system will send more blood to your brain, and it will have a net positive effect. You'll just have more oxygen, right? Cool. Thanks, Srinivasan. Cool. Does anyone have any questions from the previous slide, just in case?
I have some small doubt. Like I said, 8,000 steps per day. Is it the same for everyone? Like,
Yeah, because the studies conducted or done on gross populations. So yes.
So higher the better, right? Like if I do 10, 12, 13,000, that's better, right?
Depends on what stress or load you have on your body that day. If you've done VO2 max training, no, you don't need to do higher the better. You just stick to 8,000. So the demands of every situation would be different. If you just do like 10,000 steps on your VO2 max training day, I think it's adequate. I can't hear you.
Okay, got it. So let's say if I do a cardio on, like let's say I do a cardio on alternate days and strengthening on alternate days. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I do, if I'm not doing cardio on that day, maybe I can max out on, let's say, 10,000 steps or 12,000 steps on the.
If your cardio is maximal, VO2
Oh,
max is maximal training. If your cardio is like smooth and everything, you can go up to 15, 20,000 steps, whatever it is. Because VO2 max training is strenuous. It's like doing 3 workouts back to back. The concept of that training is to train in a maximal zone for as long as you can. Um, don't do it in a polluted area. That's 100. But you need to keep away from pollution at all times, right? So don't think that your trade-off with the VO2 max or the steps have to be outside if you're running, etc. If it's polluted, please, there's many other ways to exercise. Do indoor burpees or jumping jacks or something. I definitely would not recommend anyone going out during high pollution days. Cool.
There is a question on the chat.
Yeah.
What is the relation about muscle mass and longevity?
Right.
Is a skinny person more at a disadvantage than a person who is more muscular?
Right. So, it's about, again, this is about probability, right? Now, let's say if you're a skinny person and you're about 60, 65 years old and you don't have that much muscle mass. And even if you have strength, for instance, you might have strength. That's fine. It protects you from, falling. You might have balance. All of that is great. My single most concern in that situation for a person would be if somebody at that age gets cancer, right? And don't think that cancer is just one of those things that happen to some people. Is the second leading cause of death in this country. First is heart disease, second is cancer. If somebody's not died from heart disease, they'll die from cancer. So if somebody gets cancer at that age, the 33% of people who die in cancer die from this thing called cancer cachexia, right? And cancer cachexia is the loss of body mass from cancer or its treatments. So that's a 33% risk of dying just because that person has gotten cancer or is being treated for cancer. Forget cancer. If somebody gets an infectious disease, dengue or viral, if you have low muscle mass, do you think that person has a higher chance of survival during dengue if they have low muscle mass, or a person who has high muscle mass, that person bounces back quickly? Because the first thing that happens, even if you get a flu, is that you get a sudden dip in energy. You get a sudden dip in strength. And the reason for that is it's your body's process to take all those resources and put it in healing and recovery and damage and clearing your body of that disease or that parasite, so to speak. So 100% muscle mass is crucial from that standpoint. Not only that, muscle has extended benefits. It has the ability to produce myokines, which will reduce your mood, your ability to prevent heart disease and whatnot. And to add on top of that, the more muscle you have, the lesser your chances of getting diabetes, significantly lesser. Because where does glucose go? It goes into your muscles. It goes into every single muscle. And if you just have more muscle, you can just dispose more glucose. So somebody who's really skinny, doesn't have that much muscle, and is very high on carbohydrates, that person will always have flowing blood glucose in their body. So where does all of that blood glucose go to? It goes into your muscles. And how is it stored in your muscles? It's stored as a polymer glucose called glycogen. You have some in your liver. You can't expand your liver. The only thing that you can expand is your muscle mass. So muscle 100% is a longevity tool. And muscle also adds to functionality and stability. If you're just well muscled, you'll have fewer risk of falls. A significant contributor to deaths in elderly population is falls. 80% of accident related deaths in older people are falls. And this is just them falling and dying in that moment. I'm not even talking about the numbers that come where they fall and then they get diabetes or a cancer or some other metabolic problem and then they die. It's on the spot. So these are statistics. So I hope that answers your question. Cool?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so people have this question, like you said, I do strength training, I do cardio. I think you have a great strategy, Srinivasan. I think it's really, really good. It's well balanced. The whole idea is to be a well-rounded, all-rounded athlete rather than being really good at one thing, right? So, if you look at what gives the maximum number of benefits, so there was this study that was conducted on healthcare professionals, physiotherapists, and they asked them, what do you recommend? What do you tell your patients is good for them? So automatically the person says, okay, strength or, cardio. Now, why did they recommend this? Because they were advocates and proponents of that same art. You will always believe that this is the way to live your life. All of you who are living your lives, you believe that this is the way to live your life. In contrast to, you might sometimes meet somebody from Australia and they stop going to work at 5, they shut door and you're like, it doesn't even make sense. So you know that, everybody lives in their own biases. So, what's the reality? The truth of the matter is that if you do both, you significantly reduce the risk of all diseases, whether it's respiratory illnesses, and these are metrics, these are numbers, these are statistics. Respiratory illnesses, cancers, metabolic disease, cardiovascular disease, even Alzheimer's. If you have a well rounded exercise routine which has balanced strength training and it has endurance training as well, you significantly reduce your your longevity, your health span, and you significantly reduce the risk of all these diseases. Now, because you asked that question about muscle, there was this one article in JAMA which says that strength training reduces HbA1c far more effectively. Actually, you asked that question, I just answered that. And there's another article in the BMJ, a research paper, which says that people who are top 25% in terms of strength versus bottom 25% of strength, they are 2 times less likely to die of any reason in the coming year. So when I give you that VO2 max example, people go like, okay, you know what? I want to be VO2 max, high VO2 max because it's got a higher metric. My simple question is it easier to be in the top 25% of strength, or is it easier to be in the top 2.5% of VO2 max? The simple answer for that is, in terms of statistics, that it's easier to be in the top 25% of strength. And just by being in that number, your hazard ratio goes from, for bottom 25 against top 25 is 3:1. So if there's four people who sort of have, if there's four people who died in that entire cohort, I think it was about 5 lakh people and they followed it. Out of those four people who died, and when they compared top 25 to bottom 25, three of them were from the bottom 25 and only one was in the top. So in terms of probability, if you want to really improve the quality of your life and also reduce the probability of or dying from any reason, and this also included, by the way, people who had dyslipidemia, poor cholesterol levels, even people who had diabetes, but still these were the statistics when you just measured strength. So you significantly reduce poor health outcomes irrespective of anything, just by going up on strength, right? So if you were to talk about broad numbers, I think you can just stick to moderate cardio, even if it is steps, close to about 150 minutes in a week. And if you do like 75 minutes, like I said, 2 sessions of VO2 max in a week, it can be equally effective. It can be game changing, right? So if you're somebody who likes low intensity, do your 30 minutes every other day, and you should be able to sort of hit closer about that target. And if you want to do maximal training, then twice a week or even twice a month should be able to give you those benefits, provided you just do it with that much intensity, right? Any questions here? Cool. Also, in terms of numbers, if somebody were to ask, just putting it out there, how if a person who doesn't exercise, if they do cardio, and this is, let's say, for cancers and respiratory diseases, it's all of them summed up together in terms of poor outcomes. And if this cohort starts exercising, if you do cardio, you reduce it by 25%. If you do strength, 30%. If you do strength training, you reduce it by 30%. And if you do both, you significantly go down. You go down like towards 50 to 40%. So you almost like literally double down on it, right? And this is when you're doing cardio every day, right? So it's not like more exercises doing it. It's only that you're adding strength instead of cardio, right? Your number of sessions or your workout hours are same. You just added strength to it. So the effects are amplified. So it's not like, the duration of exercise is a variable in it. It's not like somebody who's doing 6 days of endurance is going to benefit from, is going to have more benefit. If you add 3 days of strength to it, you just double down on it. I hope that clears a lot of things for a lot of people. Cool. There you go. Right? So now there's this one thing that I consistently keep seeing. Nobody keeps an eye on it, and it's a killer. Why do I talk about blood pressure? Because people think blood pressure is nothing. It's, it can easily be dealt with. If your blood pressure is hitting to the higher limit of 120, right? And if it's crossing 125, 130, especially during summers, I think it's something that you should take very seriously. And I think it's easily fixable. The reason why it's important is because it's often neglected, right? Many of you might also neglect it. Women sometimes they don't have this problem because they usually are low on the blood pressure curve. Post menopause, they would probably experience it more. But for men, I think it's something that can significantly reduce the poor cardiac outcomes. Why? Because blood pressure essentially is the amount of pressure that is on your arterial wall. So when your heart pumps blood and it flows through it, imagine there's a pipe and there's water flowing through it. How much pressure is that entire pipe or the tap or whatever it is, where the blood is flowing, wherever the blood is flowing, whatever pressure that entire structure is experiencing. So that would include your organs, that would include your kidneys, your eyes, your brain, every single thing. And because we're talking about biohacking and performance, there are many people who, when they go high stress, their blood pressure also goes high. And that's a performance killer. It absolutely wrecks your performance. You might think that it's actually helping you because you're more aroused and everything, but chronically elevated blood pressure will reduce your cognitive capabilities because it's absolutely unhealthy for every single organ of your body. In fact, to an extent where, people talk about, Srinivasan said that, he was talking about how much protein to eat. Doctors say kidneys get damaged, etc. All of that. The biggest contributor to kidney damage are two things. One is blood pressure, and the other is diabetes. It's very seldom that you'll come across someone who's actually had true damage from excessive protein, right? So these are the two contributors, and that's what the statistics say. How do you measure blood pressure? You just take a device, and most places where you'll go, they'll try and save time. They'll just sit you down, put it on you, check it, and the doctor's going to check it. No, that's not how you do it. You sit on a table, you have something on which you can rest your back, and you put on your cuff. Your cuff and your arm needs to be at heart height, right? And you take it on both arms. So it has to be on heart height, and you sit for 5 minutes. And after that, you take 2 to 3 measurements. Your true blood pressure will actually be the means of those three variables, right? Those three readings. So you take your first blood pressure, you take your second blood pressure and third, and then you take the top values and the bottom values, and you add them, you sum them together, and you divide by 3, and that's your true blood pressure, right? How do you control it? Well, apart from reducing your sodium intake, the most effective methods are isometric exercises, right? So people will say cardio, do cardio, your blood pressure will get better. No, it's vague. Your doctor will never tell you. They'll say that, lose body mass or body weight or body fat or whatever it is, that might help. And that would reduce your systolic blood pressure by 8 to 10. But a very effective way of doing it is doing isometric holds. For any of you who, for the ones who don't know what isometric holds are, it's essentially a contraction where you're not moving anything. You're not moving that joint. What are some isometric exercises? It would be a plank. It would be a wall sit. And if you can do it after your strength training sessions or even without the strength training sessions, if Srinivasan is concerned about his health and he just gets up after 3 hours of work and does a wall sit and holds it for 2 minutes, that on its own will not only contribute to his amount of exercise and blood flow, that will also directly impact his blood pressure. And these exercises on its own can reduce your systolic blood pressures by 5 to 10, which can be a game changer. If you go from 30 to 120, you'll just be so much clearer. Um, I don't know if any of you have experienced high blood pressure, but if you get it under control, you will see a significant difference in the way your brain can actually work, function, think, and not only your brain, every single thing, right?
Yeah. One small doubt, like you said,
Yeah.
I have to take 3 readings, right? How much interval we have to give before
Sorry?
taking? You said regarding taking 3 readings, like
No
so.
intervals, no intervals. Why we take 3 is because we just want the means of it. Sometimes there's people who have a lab coat, a white coat syndrome. When they'll go to a doctor, it might come elevated because there's a doctor, you're anxious, you're worked up. And, because you're taking your first reading, you'll be like, okay, you know what? I'm anxious. I hope it comes correct. You're looking at it. By the third time, usually the blood pressure tends to come down. So what you want to do is you just want to get an average, and it can significantly vary. The key there is to make sure that you have your back rested and you have sat down for 5 minutes.
Cool,
Cool?
cool. Thanks.
Okay. Right. So there's the one that everybody, I think, Srinivasan will find value here. So if you can see, you see the Harvard Healthy Plate. If you can Google it, you'll find it. You'll find it on Google or anywhere, wherever you see. And you see what the Harvard Healthy Plate says is, and the reason I'll tell you there's some challenges to it, right? Essentially, you can quantify it by saying that if I have a plate, half of it is fruits and vegetables, and you can make this anywhere, even when you're traveling, even if you're eating at home, you just have to dress your plate like that. So half of it is fruits and vegetables, one fourth of it is your carbohydrates, which can be your chapati, roti, millets, quinoa, or whatever it is, and one fourth of it should be proteins. And then you can have some healthy fats like olive oil or something that is absolutely important. I would Anybody who says that don't have fats, etc., I think they're causing more harm than good, because there's so many functions that fat has, from your hormone health to your cell membrane health and all those things, your brain health and your immune function, so to speak, even your heart health for that matter. So having healthy fats is key, in that. So I just simplified it for you, right? I think this is the way one must eat. And if anybody just wants to, like, Srinivasan might have, like, I want to gain more muscle, you just increase the net total quantity in the same structure, right? So you go like, okay, if my plate is like this and I'm having 3 meals in a day, I'll add another meal. And if I want to even gain more muscle, I can add another meal, right? Because this is adequate micronutrients, adequate carbs, adequate fats on top when you add olive oil or something, or add avocado to it, and that's what it should look like. Do not make half of your plate only fruit. It has to have vegetables. The challenges associated with this are that when you're in India, all these vegetables, they can be tough. Like, you've got all these salads and everything over there in the Harvard plate, all green leafy vegetables and everything. They can actually be more detrimental because you can end up with a stomach bug or flu. What do you do in that case? In that case, you make a pivot. You go like, okay, I'm going to have the same proportions of things. I'm going to have some lentil, right? And I'm going to have some sabzi, and which is your dal roti sabzi format, right? And I'm going to have this much protein. And if you're really big on gaining a lot of muscle, I have been a well muscle guy at some point. Don't overestimate the amount of protein that you need. I think at max you need 2 times your body weight. But even if you go along with 1.5 times of your body weight in grams of protein, it should do the job. But this is exactly how your food should be. Even if you're eating something hyperpalatable like a butter chicken or something, if you just make your plate look like this, you'll be good to go. Why is that? Why is it that just adding these vegetables or this fruit can contribute so much to somebody's metabolism or their digestion or their weight management or their performance? Why is it like that? It's a simple formula, the simple science to it. The fiber in this, on the left side of this plate, essentially goes in your gut and makes a lining. And the way your gut processes food is, and the way it absorbs the calories and the nutrients is, when there is an interaction with the surface area of the gut and the food. So this fiber essentially is not going to get digested, because it's fiber for a reason, right? And it doesn't break down that easily, right? You have two kinds of fibers, one is soluble, one is insoluble. So all this roughage and fiber sort of creates a layer in your gut, and it reduces the amount of interaction that is there between the actual food and the stomach lining. So it slows the digestive process. So if you're having something really high carbohydrate, there is minimal, if I'm getting the carbohydrates to interact with the gut like this, then my blood glucose will go up very slowly. And then maybe it's gonna, through peristalsis, toss and turn, then some of the remaining carbohydrates is gonna interact again. So digestion just becomes more, absorption becomes slow, right? And we want that because we want to be able to give your body the right amount of time to deal with those nutrients, even if it's amino acids for that matter. It has to take that, and then it has to send it somewhere. It has to dispose of it, or it has to nourish the muscles. It has to do it, but it has to be a process. You need to have adequate time. The second thing that it does is that it gives you satiety. It fills you up. And there's various feelings that a person can talk about, like, I want to munch on something. So that munching feeling, that I want to munch on, I'm not really hungry, but I want to munch on something. That munching on its own, even if you chew a chewing gum, can reduce somebody's urge to eat something. It's called mastication, right, where you actually chew, and that's a feeling that can give you some kind of satiety. And the other thing is, of course, stomach fullness. And I don't know if you've heard of these new GLP-1 drugs, the Ozempics and the Monjaros and all of that. Their job is pretty much similar. What they do is they give you satiety, and they slow the process through which your gut is actually, processing or digesting food. So this does exactly that. And try and keep your food away from your sleep time, because when you're sleeping you want to be in absolute restful state, because many people don't know this, but your intestines are muscles themselves. They're smooth muscles, and you don't want your muscles to be working when you're sleeping. You want to essentially be sleeping when you're sleeping. So it can change the way you actually recover, right? Does anyone have any questions? I think some of you might have, because maybe you'll think it's oversimplified, but this works. It's no brainer.
Yeah, I said one small doubt. No, since you talked about oils and everything,
Yeah,
during our whenever we go out with our friends and with our colleagues, and whenever we work at office, right? So we get easily access to these fried foods like
yeah,
samosas, French fries. We
yeah.
have 3-4 vending machines full of packages. So I just want to know what is your comment on that? Like, can we know? Some maybe once a month or twice a week, once a week or twice a week, can we
Absolutely.
have
Absolutely.
or
Have it.
is
Go
it
ahead
okay?
once a month, twice a week. Absolutely. Sorry, not twice a week. Once a month, twice a month. Absolutely. Go for it. But within that also, there's something that I look out for. Now, when I'm going and having this samosa, is it a samosa that is cooked in several times reused oil, or is it a samosa that is being cooked in fresh oil, right? And even when I'm choosing between hyper palatable foods, I'm going to think that, okay, you know what, which is the one which causes the least amount of damage. So if it's very used oil, it's been used several times, it's probably going to be high in polycyclic aromatic compounds. It's probably going to cause, it increases the tendency of somebody's getting clogged arteries. And not only that, it leads to several cancers. So reheated oil has been shown to significantly cause that damage. Once in a month, I think it's fine. I think it's okay. I don't think it'll create a huge impact. But yeah, if you do it regularly, that's when it becomes a problem. So, and of course, when you're socializing with your people, like I said, if you have good quality social connections, that will significantly contribute to the state of mind, to your stress. You'll feel nice, you'll feel good. Does it mean you do it too frequently? No, you don't eat that much to socialize. If you're in a group which eats like that every day, you should ideally change your group and be with someone who is a little more self-aware.
Asad, one last question, if I'm
Yes.
asking too much,
No, no, please.
what's your viewpoint on drinking maybe beer or wine? We we repeatedly hear that drinking wine is healthy for your heart, and it gives a glow to your skin. And many people drink beer because it has very low very low alcohol content. And many people say that maybe one large or two large is okay, and per day or per week is okay, and social drinking is also okay. It's coming becoming very common.
Yeah.
So what's your comment on that?
So, alcohol has zero benefits. So, if anybody says that, it puts you to sleep, no, it doesn't. It knocks you out. You'll never have good quality sleep if you have alcohol. Why do I know this? Because there's enough EEG data to point out towards that. It's not self-report or self-feeling. It's actually your brain not being able to go in a state of REM sleep, which is a quantified variable of understanding how deep your sleep is. So alcohol definitely does not help with sleep. Does it help with socializing? Yes, it does. And if you're socializing once or twice in a week or even daily, now the question comes, how much alcohol? So according to the American Heart Association, for men it's one drink, for men it's two drinks, and for women it's one drink. And if you stay within those guidelines, I think it's fine. Choice of alcohol, again, it would completely depend on what you're trying to get out of that entire experience. Is it your social connections over beer? Have your beer, no problem. And provided you're able to balance it out with the right amount of exercise and hydration, right? Because it's high in calories. Whiskey, wine, whatever it is, as long as you're staying within that two drink a day limit, I think it's okay. I think there's not much problem. But problem happens when people are, going overboard with that, right? And if somebody wants to get high, school, do it once in a month, twice in a month, not more. Twice also I would avoid. Once in a month is fine because it has zero benefits. There's nothing that alcohol can give you. I feel that people who try and drink alcohol or party too much, this is something that, I because I psychologically also profile people, and maybe it's me going on a limb. There are people who are actually trying to escape the next day, so you're not essentially happy in your life, so you're just using it to escape that, because the longer you stay awake, the more you will try and push off the next day. And anybody who's actually enjoying what they're doing, they look forward to the next day, so they'll just try and regulate their social commitments and everything early, get up early the next day and get to work. So it's more like a where am I in life kind of a question, kind of a thing. So just food for thought.
I just want to know, also ask you, is it because people increasing their alcohol consumption on a daily basis? Is it because you also talked about loneliness, right? Is it also to fight with the loneliness and mostly most people nowadays they stay on PGs and they're not with their family. They're in another city, new city, and they've been working there like and they're also drinking. Is it also to fight loneliness?
It would be because there are some things that are dopaminergic in nature and give pleasure. Um, uh, s- Food is definitely on that list because what gives you pleasure? Of course, Netflix is dopaminergic and stories are dopaminergic. It tells it sort of excites you, puts you in that. Social media is like that. So, again, dopaminergic gives you pleasure. Sex, alcohol, all these things are dopaminergic. So now when it comes to understanding and even going to parties, interacting with people, these are all things that give you pleasure. Exercise, once it's finished, it gives you a deep satisfaction of pleasure. It gives you a huge dopamine rush that I've accomplished something. Now, out of all these things, it's a question for a person to try and understand what are the things that I can choose which give me pleasure but do not harm me, right? And if I'm having alcohol, is it actually to fill a void, or is it actually to give me pleasure and have some sort of outcome to it? So then that becomes a philosophical and a question to self, that what are the things that I want to attach myself to in order to access that. You'll see that people who exercise, who sleep on time, who have the quality of social connections, who have good nutrition, who do all those things, the six pillars that were mentioned here, who manage their stress, they will automatically abstain from risky substances. Anybody who has these five things in control will automatically keep away from smoking and drinking as well, right? And when it comes to smoking, I think there's zero, all right, zero amounts of smoking that is okay. And definitely not smoking. People use nicotine, which is, still not okay. I would not say it's okay, but smoking is really bad. So zero amounts of smoke. If you test this entire theorem, this theorem of this equation and these if you back test this, if any two out of these three things, out of these six things go out of whack, everything goes out of whack. And if you'll go in the past and if you'll think of what was the best time that I lived my life, which is the best part of my life, it would be a point where your sleep is in point or is on point, your social connections are good, your stress is good, your exercise is also happening, you have movement, etc., whatever it is, your nutrition will also be fine, and you probably in all likelihood would not be resorting to smoking and drinking. But इसमें से अगर कोई भी दो तीन चीजें खराब होती है ना, everything goes for a toss. And if you're talking about performance, I'll tell you what, you perform best in this zone. If you do all these things correctly, that's when your performance will peak. So if you'll do a back test and see when have I performed at the best consistently at a longitudinal level, like for 6 months or 8 months, I'm not talking about like a short, 6 week sprint. I'm talking about a long 1 year or 1.5 year duration. उस टाइम में ना आपकी ये सारी चीजें 100% ऑन पॉइंट होंगी, बैलेंस्ड होंगी, right? And you can back test this on yourself. It's very validated. I think if you point out to the best point in your life, it will have most of these variables as a tick mark. That's when you'll be working at your best as well, because your state of mind will be that of achievement, right? It will be an upward spiral, and it won't be learned helplessness. People who have all of this off, they often have this window moment. Okay, this is happening to me, that is happening to me, rather than having a mirror moment and saying, it's my fault this is not happening, so I'm going to get it fixed. So anybody who has their exercise in place is somebody who knows that I have to fix the problem in my life. And the same thing goes for work, that if this is the problem at work, this is the problem that I'm trying to solve, this is the goal that I'm trying to achieve, I will only have to solve it. There are no external variable factors that can change it. If my employee is not if my my trainee or my junior is not listening to me, it's not because that person is wrong. I will have to fix it. I'll have to speak to that person, and it gives you more control over your life. So this entire diagram represents how much are you in control. And when you're in control, only then you can perform at your best, no matter whatever it is that you do. I hope that clarifies
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
a lot of
sure.
things.
Yeah, if I have enough time, I might ask more questions. Maybe this might be the last one. Sorry if I'm asking too much questions. Like we see, many wellness products coming up. Many supplements. Supplements is a very big market in America, and it's also becoming very large in India as well.
Yeah.
What are some supplements or some wellness products we should refrain from using? Let's say any particular vitamins that we should not eat because that we are actually taking from our food, and something that we should not use, maybe a particular wellness product that might be doing harm than good.
More harm than good.
Yeah,
Um, I would say anything that is sourced poorly, has high amounts of lead or toxic metals, that will do more harm than good. If you will ask me, are there supplements that can significantly contribute to your lifespan? No, because whatever studies have been done, they point otherwise. Um, Supplements do not contribute to, they're actually a very small contributor to your lifespan. These things that we discussed, these are significantly more powerful. And in the words of Dr. Peter Attia, supplements in general will only determine what, if your Titanic is going from destination A to B, supplements would only determine what kind of food is being served on the Titanic, right? How is your experience? Maybe it will improve certain symptoms, maybe it will improve lethargy, or maybe it might improve cognitive performance to a level. But if you're doing all these six things, can a supplement outdo the same kind of effects in comparison to this? No. There is nothing that can change the impact of these six things. If you do these six things right, you don't need supplements, because you have a well balanced plate. And let's say, there are these new things called NAD, NMN, all of that, which increase NAD levels in your body. The most effective way to raise NAD in your body would be exercise, right? There's
yeah,
people who exercise, and people say the significant something that can significantly reduce heart disease would be a medicine or something which reduces LDL. Well, if you exercise, you just have better quality of piping. And if you have better quality of piping, and if you eat like this, healthy fats, etc., even if you're slightly high on LDL, your blood vessels will be healthy, and you'll not have clogged arteries. So there's nothing, no supplement is a supplement or IV therapy in this world can replace these six pillars. The only supplements that you should avoid are the ones with toxic chemicals, poor sourcing, lead, heavy metals, etc. Make sure that your supplements are sourced correctly. And I think personally speaking, a lot of supplements out there are actually not relevant or important. Something like a BCAA is not something that contributes significantly, because anyway, if you're going to have protein, you'll have those amino acids. The same, I think, for collagen, because it breaks down, it goes in your gut, it'll break down, it'll become different amino acid. It has to realign. So if you're having something, is it getting absorbed the way it is? No. If you're going to have collagen, if you're going to have protein, it's going to break down into the substrates, and then your body decides that what does the molecule actually become, what does it become after digestion, absorption. So I think a lot of supplements are not really important for that matter.
What about the protein and protein powder and
Protein
fish
powder
oil?
is important, but if you were to ask me that, do I make a plate like this and have protein 4 times in a day versus protein powder, 100% I'll tell you to eat like this. How do you know where your protein is sourced from? India is a price sensitive market. You'll go like, okay, this is cheap, I'll buy it. How much protein do you think that protein supplement even has? So of course you can take it, no doubt about it. But if you're eating 4 times in a day like this, you add like 4 eggs in that quarter, and if you happen to have it those many times in a day, by the end of the day, if you're trying to build muscle, you'll have 4 meals. If you'll add one portion of a chicken breast, it's adequate protein. You don't need a protein supplement. But if you're skipping meals, if you're in a rush, in that case, on that day, just have a protein supplement.
Okay, fish oil.
Fish oil is good. Fish oil does not have the amount of EPA that your body needs in order to prevent heart disease. Your body needs at least 3 to 4 grams. For that, you will have to eat fish. There is no fish oil made on this planet that can give you that amount of EPA, DHA.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I have one question.
Yeah, please.
Uh, Given strength training and cardio, like how do I implement yoga? Since I like yoga,
Yeah.
how do I implement it? Given
So what
what
you
I
want to
trust?
do, you want to create a program, right? And you want to see what aspects of uh, your muscle groups or your functionality. So you divide your health into two aspects, right? You divide the outcomes. First, you quantify it into two aspects. One would be your metabolic health, and one would be your mechanical health. So what are you trying to achieve from yoga, right? That becomes the first question. If you're trying to achieve flexibility, okay, so in that case, you do yoga as a mobility exercise, balance and coordination, and you save the time stretching in your strength training routine, and you just do strength training and then yoga, and you do it with overlaps of muscle groups. So if you're doing strength training for legs, you do strength training for yoga. You worked your legs, you've done it. But in case you're doing yoga for your parasympathetic activation, which is what I do it for, right? I do it in order to meditate, to focus, to perform. That's what I do my yoga for. If I'm doing it for that, then I'll just do it every day. I'll get up in the morning for, I don't need to do it 1 hour. I'll just do it for 20 minutes, right? And I'll focus on, either I'll do mindfulness practices, or I'll focus on a candle. It's called Tratak, and it will help me regulate my heart rate variability. It will boost my heart rate variability, which will help me recover. So it depends on what are you trying to achieve out of yoga. So you'll have to create a program for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So last but really important, sleep and stress, right? And this is something, a lot of people focus on nutrition all the time. And I'm glad we had a lot of questions from nutrition, because it's the easiest thing that a person can maybe modulate. And it determines a lot of concepts are there, that 70% nutrition, 30% exercise determines the way you look, etc., all of that. So these kind of um, uh, I would say concepts are there out there, and that's why maybe the whole bent towards nutrition is there, and there's an entire industry around it, considering that everybody's asking about supplements. But in reality, I think the reason why it's so easy to sell products and services through nutrition is because it has the minimum barrier to change, right? Like an exercise routine would need you to commit a lot, nutrition might not need you to commit that much. You can do it for some days and see good results. Is it the only thing that matters? Definitely not. Does it contribute a lot to your performance and longevity? 100%. But the mistake that people make is that they ignore every other aspect, right? And because you have nutrition under your control and time is important resource for you people, you want to use it wisely, right? So considering that, I would 100% recommend that instead of focusing on nutrition at all times, there's a very good way to tweak your nutrition, and that is by regulating your sleep and stress. How? Whenever you've reached out for hyperpalatable foods or whenever you've broken a diet, it is only and only to satisfy you psychologically, right? It is to give you comfort, it is to give you happiness, and that is what, you know, offsets the entire healthy nutrition diet and upsets it, and say, then you say that, okay, I'm going to start it after this day, right? Or if there is a celebration or something like that. Why is that? Because you're over aroused, you're stressed, you're irritable, and you'll see that the days that you're not sleeping very well, you'll also feel more hungry. And the reason for that is simple, that when you're underslept, your body constantly will have cravings. It will want some way to produce that, serotonin comfort, because you're not adequately rested. You have no, you're just feeling, and you might even skip having water for that matter. Many people, when they're underslept, they don't hydrate themselves. And many times when you're craving food, it's actually you craving, your body is dehydrated, and if you'll have that entire glass of water, your feeling to have something will absolutely vanish. So I think sleep is the new, how do you say, the new talk of the town. It's the new kid on the block, and I think it absolutely needs to be given priority. A lot of people say that, sleep should be like, as if you should be a professional sleeper. I 100% agree with that, because that is the need of the hour. Exercise and all of that are very important, but the sleep aspect of it, I think most of you would be neglecting, right? So there was this interesting question: does sleeping on the same time help? Yes, because you regulate your body's system to, because your body has its own internal clock. So essentially, if you do that, your body knows this is my awake time, and this is going to be my sleep time, and this is going to be my rest time. And why is sleep important? It's a simple matter of fact. If sleep wasn't important, and sleep is actually very wasteful, according to many people, and if it is that wasteful and if it is that unproductive, it also means that for our ancestors, it might have been a state where they're also at a threat. When you're sleeping, other predators, other tribes, other human beings can come and attack you. And if millions of years of evolution hasn't removed sleep, and you spend 30% of your lives sleeping, then definitely sleep is important. So there is no argument about that. Otherwise, evolution would have removed it. You would have been able to sleep just 2 hours. There are some birds that can fly and sleep. It's not working for us. As human beings, we are just not designed that way, and we have not achieved that level of evolution, and I don't think we will, because that's just how physiology is, right? So it's not just recovery time, it's also uh, very important for your neurobiological system. Why? Because your brain and your spine get cleansed during that time. Your cerebrospinal fluid works to remove amyloid beta, tau proteins, which actually lead to dementias, Alzheimer's later, right? Also, if you're underslept and if you're overworked or if you're exercising and you don't have enough deep sleep, you will not engage or create the repair mechanisms to have those adaptations. So if you're exercising for an outcome and you're constantly bombarding a system, what are you even exercising for? Or what are you even, doing whatever you're doing for? Because if you don't fix it, if there's no build and repair and adaptation mechanism in place, what is all of that damage or outcome for? Is it for a feeling, or is it actually for an outcome, right? Also, very, very irregular sleep schedules can lead to insulin insensitivity. Like I said, it increases cortisol. Cortisol will always increase blood sugar, and that will lead to bad insulin sensitivity. That will lead to weight gain, and that will lead to diabetes for sure. I myself was highly underslept for a very, very long time, and I reached an HbA1c of 6.5. I was shocked. And I'm someone who used to exercise very regularly, and I was heavily muscled. The moment I started sleeping at least 6 to 7 hours, it all got fixed. And I was chronically underslept for about 2 to 3 years because I had to work very, very hard to reach where I am today. So, it takes short sprints of doing that. Would I do it again? Not to the extent which I went to. Have I fixed it? Yes. Now, just by fixing my sleep, I was able to reduce my HbA1c back to 5.4, right? And when it comes to stress, now, how do you quantify stress? Now, you talk about stress, you don't know what it is. If you want to do a stress test, just go and check your heart rate variability. If you have a smartwatch or a fitness tracker, look at your stress levels on a day-to-day basis on it. And you'll get to know whether you're chronically stressed or not. Your heart rate variability is basically a computation of um, the duration between each QRST, which you see on an ECG, in simple words, is a calculation between each beat and its consistency. And why is it important? Because the moment your HRV is very high, it should be high, it shouldn't be low. So the calculation is that it should be high, and it's made like that. When it's really high, your body is setting these, repair processes. Because if you're in a sympathetic state, which means that you're over aroused, you're like vigilant, you're always working, and you're very aware of your environment, and you're always anxious and stressed about what happens tomorrow and what has happened in the past, your body will always refrain from those repair mechanism, and that is your sympathetic state. You're over aroused, you're overactivated. It will always produce adrenaline and cortisol, and you will never go into rest and digest. What happens in rest and digest is that you'll have undisrupted digestion. You will have undisrupted repair mechanisms. Your endocrine system, which is your body's glands which produce all the hormones, or the organs that produce all the hormones, those will function better. And thereby, whatever it is that you're worried about will essentially just get better, because you will just function better. You'll just work better because you'll be doing it better. Now, how do you deal with stress? You can do alternate nostril breathing. Some people might think, how does breathing help with that? The simple reason why breathing helps with that is because your parasympathetic nervous system is directly linked with your breathing pattern. It is that part of your nervous system that makes you breathe and makes your heart beat and makes you digest, because you're not doing it voluntarily, right? It's something that happens involuntarily as well. And that is your parasympathetic nervous system, which sort of functions on its own. So you sort of hack into it the moment you do breathing exercises. You can do box breathing, you can do triangular breathing, you can also do meditation, and you don't have to do it very, very for very long minutes. You just have to do it a little bit. Like, even if you do box breathing for 10 rounds after your exercise, it really helps. If you can do alternate nostril breathing, and your pranayams and all of those things for just 10 minutes a day, it will make a significantly amplified change in your body. You do it one day and you track your heart rate variability while you're doing it. If you have an Apple Watch, you can open your HRV and you can see it. You'll see your heart rate variability go up. And if you wear a Whoop or an Aura ring or some other device, you can see the next day you do this breathing before you sleep, you'll see that it goes up, provided all other variables are same. ये नहीं कि आपने बहुत ज़्यादा एक्सरसाइज करी है और उससे पहले वाले दिन से आप कंपेयर कर रहे हो जिस दिन आपने एक्सरसाइज ज़्यादा नहीं करी है. Also, another thing, get your workouts done first thing in the morning. That's key to having a perfect circadian rhythm, because your body will automatically put you to in a high sleep state at night. If you exercise at night, you'll just have more adrenaline. It'll make it harder for you to sleep, especially if you're taking pre-workouts. The other thing you want to do is keep away from screens. Absolutely. I 100% believe it. Some of you might want to scroll on your phone. Don't do it. Get a book. It'll contribute significantly more to your life. If you're talking to your significant other, just make sure you have boundaries. You say, okay, you want 45 minutes to 90 minutes before sleep, I'm not going to be looking at my screen. Maybe you can talk on the phone, or from a distance on a speaker, because you don't want it on your ear. And that's a nice hack. If you're a coffee lover, don't have it at night. Get yourself a decaf. I know it doesn't taste the same, but it'll work wonders for you. Just try and fix it, right? And of course, you have to look at your environment, right? You have to see that whatever your environment has, whether it's if it's poorly lit, if you don't have exposure to sunlight, if you don't have exposure to clean air, you need to make those things happen for you, right? And Twin has organized this workshop or this webinar for us. I think they do a great job in figuring out your metabolic health. You put on the CGM and you see how you're responding to different kinds of foods or how your behaviors are contributing to that, so you can actually see how it works. And once you've understood it, you can tweak your food habits, your sleep habits according to your individual biological systems. Okay, you know what, my gut functions this way, and if I eat this food, that's what gives me an insulin spike or a glucose spike. I definitely want to keep away from that. When it comes to pollution, definitely wear masks or stay in a place, or your indoors should have an air purifier ideally. And yeah, and if you get sunlight, they keep saying that sunlight is important for you. It can significantly change the way you experience your entire day, for that matter. You get up in the morning, see the sunlight, it'll reset your entire system. The other thing you want to do is that you also want to design your day in such a way that, let's say, even if you're not exercising, just do those few movements or exercises. Set an alarm, set a timer, say that after every hour I'm going to do one thing, and let that thing be anything. Let it be a walk, let it be some push-ups, let it be a jumping jack or a squat. It might sound stupid that, why am I doing this in the middle of an office or something like that, and but the true reason for that is that compounded over a decade or 2 decades or 3 decades can be the difference between life and death. Cardiovascular disease doesn't happen in one day. Diabetes doesn't happen in one day. Anybody who's dying of cardiovascular disease at 50 or 60, anybody who's getting a heart attack at 50 or 60, that person got it started for him at the age of 20. In their 20s, they got it started. It takes decades for this thing to build up. So if you're thinking there's going to be one final day that I'm going to achieve it, it's not going to happen. It is the compounded effect of your poor habits over time. So if you can just make a promise to yourself that I'm going to do 6 rounds of exercise every single day, even if I'm in office, no matter where am I, right? And if I do 6 rounds of exercise, and those are, maximum burst exercises, whether it's a jumping jacks or push-ups to failure or squats till failure. And if I just do it every single day, that on its own can change the entire physiology of your body so that you do not fall prey to such disease and problems. And if you think that, this is just a gimmick, look at your investments, look at your SIP funds, look at your mutual funds. It works exactly the same way. You put in even 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 rupees every month. Voila, after 10, 20 years, it's a couple of crores. That's exactly what these 6 things were. And exercise, especially, because I know that 99% of you people will find that the easiest thing to give up. And, some of the risky substances, maybe you can tweak and regulate for yourself. Right. With that, I think I conclude this webinar. I think Antara can give you this. She can send this presentation to you guys. You guys can take a look at this 4-week proof of concept, and you can plan your systems and everything around it. Definitely look at this particular core metrics, because that can definitely easily tell you, okay, you know what, I'm in the wrong direction. I need to change it. Right. So these 5 things, they can be game changers, and you definitely don't want more than 2 out of these out of whack. And if you have all of them correct, then internally you're fine. Even if you are low strength, it will not be an organ or something like that that will create a poor outcome. It, in all likelihood, would be something external, like a infectious disease or something. That also you can overcome if you just increase your muscle mass and strength. Any questions for anyone?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I'm actually really, really happy and surprised to see that a lot of us actually sat through the entire 1 hour 45 minutes and and attended this, because this was so insightful. Each slide, every topic that you were speaking was like I was actually making notes, because these the things that he spoke about are actually going to help me, and these are very easy to do things that I can start doing from today. So really appreciate your time with us today, and I look forward to staying in touch with you, and appreciate the time that everyone stayed with us. If you still have any questions, Asad is still here for another 2 minutes.
Thanks, guys. I didn't know it was 1 hour 45. That's what I was telling you guys. That's what being in flow means. You don't even get to know how time passes. And that's exactly how you can biohack with these things. If you do these things, that's the way you can work. It will give you that amount of satisfaction. Cool. I guess nobody has any questions, or somebody has. Oh, there's chats.
Yeah, I can see uh, like gratitude messages from people
And I'm
saying
so
thank.
grateful. Thank you guys so much for, your kind words. It really means a lot.
Yes, sir.
All right,
And
thank you. Thanks, Asad. You
Okay.
have a
thank you. Bye bye.
you. Bye.
Buon letto.